Chapter 14. Smiling on his own. Cato was all by himself in his basement, idly staring at the second stick of candle that was already burned to a stump. He was trying to formulate a new approach for the meeting with Saraki of the Sand, but didn't enjoy much success as his mind was all over the place. Any attempts he made to concentrate on the mission proved to be futile, and only ended up leading his thoughts back to Maya. She had already left a few hours prior, but the scent of lemon blossoms still lingered in his basement as a reminder of her entrance into his life. It was a piece of springtime in the heart of winter, the fragrance of future days to come, and the sole reason he was still smiling on his own.
A change in my destiny,
he thought, and started staring at the ceiling. Her mesmerizing eyes, her infectious smile, her easy-going charms, she completely consumed his mind. And he didn't mind that at all. He slumped into his chair, threw his feet on the table, and just kept staring upward with a cup of tea in his hand. A small chuckle escaped his lips as he began tapping the porcelain with the ring on his finger. He felt like a fool for never even having considered the possibility that Maya would take after her mother. He felt like an even bigger fool for not listening to his heart and showing her his interest.
We were never meant for each other,
he kept hearing Aisha say in between his thoughts. He was so angry and dejected when those words carved out a piece of his heart. All he yearned for at that moment was utter destruction, either of himself or the entire world. It didn't matter.
I would have ended Cronus right then and there if Grandmaster Aemon and Master Mycon never intervened.
He was still ashamed that he was ready, eager even, to let everything he worked so hard to achieve crumble to dust on a whim.
We were never meant for each other.
Aisha's voice popped into his head again. At the time, he fully intended to talk things through with her when he would return from Doriva. At the very least, he would have wanted some sort of explanation. But now, less than 3 days later, he was content to let that ship sail. He was even inclined to agree with Aisha. As painful as it was for him to admit, perhaps it really was a destiny that was destined to fail.
We were never meant for each other.
Aisha's words seemed to hurt less and less each time he heard them inside his head. He even managed to let a chuckle escape from his lips as he held his eyes firmly fixed on the drab ceiling.
To new beginnings,
he said, and emptied his cup of cold chrysanthemum tea. He was losing himself to his reverie when a knock on the door finally forced him to avert his gaze. He promptly began smiling as he expected to see Maya at the other end of the room. His smile didn't waver, but it wasn't who he had hoped to see.
Raven, Rain,
he said, somewhat surprised.
What brings you here so early?
Raven walked to the table and immediately poured himself a cup of tea, but stopped with a frown when he noticed that the kettle was cold.
Not my idea, Kay, but someone was too excited to remain bedbound.
Hey, what gives, Raven?
Rain strode toward the table and lowered herself into the chair that still smelled of lemon blossoms.
Don't place the blame on me. You were the one who came into my room and ordered me to get ready.
Whatever.
Raven walked to the stove to heat up a new pot of water.
It's pretty much already sunrise anyway.
Rain blew a strand of hair from her face and flashed a broad smile.
Well, you look happy, Lord Cato,
she said, restlessly shifting in her seat, trying to make herself comfortable.
You have devised a new plan, I take it?
Cato raised an eyebrow.
Of course,
he lied.
What else would I have been doing the entire night?
Rain glanced at the 2 empty glasses on the table, grabbed the bottle of Malaki Vintage and gave it a slight shake.
You ought to be careful with this, my lord. You know how you get with extensive alcohol consumption.
Give me that!
He snatched the bottle from her hand and held it against the candlelight. Maybe he did drink more than he intended, but regretted nothing.
It helps with the creative process.
Rain lit up a devilish grin on her face and wiggled 2 fingers in front of her chest.
2 glasses,
she mouthed and teasingly slapped Cato's arm. He laughed and even seemed to blush, though the dimness of the basement helped conceal his embarrassment.
Yeah, never mind that,
he quickly said to change the course of the conversation.
You certainly look ready to take down Doriva all by yourself, Sunshine.
What? This?
She brushed off the weathered vest and stared at him, beaming with pride.
Master Jada gave it to me last night. Said it was her lucky vest.
Yeah, I would say that as well if I had to dump my old junk on someone else,
Raven said, returning to the table with a kettle of hot tea.
Oh, shut up! You are wearing Lord Cato's vest yourself!
Wrong!
Raven snapped back with his palm stiffly held in front of his sister's face.
Once again, you have no idea what you're talking about. This here is genuine Raconian leather, tailor-made specifically for this godly body. Kay has never even worn this. By all accounts, it is mine.
Well, technically speaking, she isn't wrong either.
Cato chimed in, half mumbling.
I did pay for it.
Raven was about to deliver a counter-argument, but got distracted by a sound coming from 2 floors above. He gave Cato a quick glance. His lord never even reacted to the sound.
You sure are a lively bunch this early in the morning,
A voice said from the stairs at the other side of the door. A muffled yawn followed shortly after.
Lady Maya?
Raven said, and produced a stiff bow. He nudged his sister and motioned her to do the same. Rain quickly sprang out of her seat and bowed courteously before the noble woman.
Lady Maya,
She said timidly.
At ease,
Maya said, and stretched out her arms for another yawn.
We will have to talk about the hierarchy within our jolly posse on our way to Doriva. I'm supposed to be the junior member here.
You stayed the night, my lady?
Raven asked in surprise. He gave Cato another inconspicuous glance and wasn't sure if he liked what he saw.
That's right, Lieutenant.
She replied dryly.
Good morning, Lady Maya. I hope you slept well.
Cato said, ignoring Raven to give her his full attention. He was radiating a brightness made of pure joy. His eyes were sparkling with pleasure upon seeing her again. Maya grunted and sat down in the chair across from Cato.
It was rather cold. The bed's too big to warm up properly. The room wasn't particularly cozy either.
Upon seeing her impish smile, he immediately reacted with one of his own.
My apologies, Lady Maya. I do feel like a terrible host now. Next time, I will make sure to provide you with extra warmth, should you have the need for it.
She laughed and leaned in attentively.
I might have to hold you to your word, Cap. There is nothing worse than lying in a cold bed, hoping for warmth that just won't arrive.
Cato didn't reply, not in words at least. He stared at her just as she was staring at him. They were continuing their conversation in silence and let their eyes do the rest of the talking. Raven and Rain remained awkwardly quiet throughout the exchange. Even though they didn't fully understand the context of the conversation, it was painfully clear that the dialogue was written for 2 people only. The siblings gave each other a glance and were starting to feel miserably out of place, but neither of them wanted to be the one to shatter the silence. Raven stood there, still with the kettle of tea in his hand, and Rain was locked into her bowing position. Lucky for them, the other members from the team were heard entering the mansion on the ground floor.
Oh, thank God,
Raven muttered and cleared his throat.
Kay.
He said, but it sounded like a whisper.
It seems like the team is complete.
Cato never averted his eyes, but acknowledged his lieutenant with the rise of a finger.
Perfect,
He said.
Let me get changed, then we'll head out.